Hi everybody, we're going to get started. Welcome to West Bath Candidates Night. We also have a public hearing tonight on one referendum question that's going to appear on our town meeting ballot. We have three candidates in the room tonight. Ron Beal and Kathy LaValle are on the ballot for select board for a one-year term. There's one position available. And Nathan, I'm sorry, three-year term, I misspoke. And Nathan Briggs and Casey Wharf are on the ballot for 2 3-year terms for the school board. I'd also like to recognize Allison Hepler, our state rep, who is in the room tonight.
She's also a local official somewhere else, which is why I love this.
So we'll get started. We'll start by having the candidates introduce themselves, beginning with the select board. Kathy, why don't you introduce yourself as the incumbent and tell everybody a little bit why you're running again for another term on the board.
I'm Kathy LaValle. I've been on the select board for a couple of terms now. I debated about running again or not. There are some things that we have been working on that I would really like to see through. One of those things is some stuff to do with budgets and how we have each town official or each fire chief, road commissioner, all being able to have access to their budgets, knowing what's in their budgets, being able to track that. We've kind of had a system that it's hard to tell what's in the budget, what's been spent, and what's available at any given time. So that's one of the things we've been working on. We've been working on some policy and procedures. Those are still kind of up in the air. We seem to have a lot of balls in the air, and I'd like to complete some of those things before I leave.
Okay, Ron, how about you?
Yeah, I'll introduce myself first. I was first appointed to the planning board in 1989. I became a selectman in 1990 to 2003. 4 years as the chairman of the planning board. Served as the chairman of the WINS Committee, Crime Prevention with the Saginaw County Sheriff's Department.
Ron, speak up a little bit, please.
Okay, yep. I chaired the WINS Committee, which is a crime prevention unit we had in town, basically run with me and the Sheriff's Department. I served at the Saginaw Finance Committee as chairman from 2000 to 2003. I've been a licensed professional surveyor for 50 years, believe it or not. A professional assessor for 30. I still hold both licenses. Let's see. I'm a member of the Maine Association of Assessing Officers and a member of the Maine Society of Land Surveyors. I've surveyed more land in this town than any other surveyor. I'll go into something else, one of the reasons I'm here. I felt as if the board would be better off with a professional assessor on board, given the turmoil that the obviously the Revail has done in town. It's almost the same thing. Talking to the Parker and Associates, it's almost the same thing in this town that's happened to them in Buxton. That's my brother lives in Buxton. But what happened there was they got the mill rate down, but the town decided to spend a lot of money, more. And that kind of threw the threw it all out of proportion, and they took the blame, the people in the town took the blame, blamed them for not coming in the way it's supposed to be. When initially I talked to Parker and Associates, we were hoping to cut the mill rate in half, obviously. And that didn't happen, but I do know that maybe it's the same thing, and the Buxton Selectmen and the Finance Committee apparently went a little bit overboard, and that added to the problem, and as well as this town probably did too, as well. Going through the mill rates, the three mill rates that were passed on to me. I pretty figured out what happened, but we won't go into that. But I have here, there's another thing that I would like to see, the stabilizing, tax stabilizing CDs for city has been appealed by the legislature. We all know that. We had a lot of value, obviously coming, you know, change to stay where the values were instead of the new values were probably the just values. Most of these programs like that are run by towns. The town in particular I was looking at was Bridgeton. The town manager in Bridgeton is a lost friend of mine. And I thought I would contact him and ask him how about they go about giving some kind of a taxation for the people that attend, you know, the elderly, non-fixed incomes. My idea was when I looked at it and gone through it, and I know, you know, you must assess it 70% anyway. And I was thinking maybe we need to adopt something like way, if you've been here 10 years, you're over 65 years old, then maybe you get 30% off your taxes all the way around. That may work. I haven't talked to my friend in Bridgeton to find out just how they did it. There was another town too, and I can't remember, it was down south of Biddeford that did it too. But there are quite a few towns that do go out and try to stabilize the taxes for the seniors in this town. Every town is going through what we're going through. Everybody I've talked to, all the assessors I've talked to, it just, well, I mean, it's just something that happened. And the values and the inflation and everything is just driven everything right out of sight. And I think that may be a problem. The thing is, if I'm sitting on the Board of Assessors as a selectman, they are the Board of Assessors. A lot of times, like I've had 3 or 4 people come up and tell me they're taxing them for too much land. They're not taxing them because there's a right of way that goes through it, or somebody's got something on it or something. I think before it comes to the Board of Selectmen, it needs to be found out who's right and who's wrong. They just can't say tax map's right and the person coming with the complaint is wrong. You just can't say that. And I've always done that as an assessor for the town. I've always listened to complaints from people who have land problems, and with my massive amount of files of West Bath and the history of West Bath, probably most history of anybody in West Bath, I figure that may be something I can help them with, and I'd be willing to do that with. So that's the 2 reasons I would like to run. I think they need a professional assessor on the board, and I think they need to look at a tax stabilization through the towns. That's it.
All right, thank you, Ron. Nathan, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us why you want to run for a 3-year term on the school board?
Yes, well, hi, my name is Nathan Briggs. I've lived here in West Bath since 2013. I have 2 boys, one in the West Bath Elementary and one to be going through the system. My kids love it. We've had a great experience with the school. I work in the town of Bath through Parks and Recs, as well as I coach through the town, or coach all the youth sports with my son. So I figured being a part of the school board and just kind of grow my, I don't know, I really like being here in Bath, and I just figure I could try to help out the town more. Yeah.
Okay. We'll open up to questions right now. If you have a question for any of the candidates, please just introduce yourself for the record. And it can be a question for the school board or the select board. Yes.
Well, I would just like to make a comment. Bob Bresnahan, live right across the street. First off, I drive over here and everybody asks me why. I have a dog, and if he saw me cross the road, he would think it was okay. Anyway, I moved into that house in 1977. The taxes were $188 a year. So they're approximately 10 times. And I understand inflation. You know, I'm not an idiot. I am a transplant from Massachusetts. I'm not proud of it, but I admit to it.
At least you moved. At least you moved
Yeah.
here.
Forced out by the economy down there, actually. I lived in a small coastal town that is prohibitive. And of course, in the 60s, we had school busing, which forced people out of Boston into the suburbs and everything. My fear today is that there is a liberal agenda coursing through this country that is totally unattainable because of cost. We have empowered the weak and funded all their little pet things, and we've really made the world kind of strange. As I say, I've been here many years, like this town, hardworking people. I don't know how many of you remember Arthur Reno. Everybody remember Arthur?
Oh, yeah.
He told me once that I wasn't a bad guy from being from Massachusetts. And if you knew Arthur, that was our compliment. Wow. So all I can say is that we're at a critical time. You know, when we're tearing down homeless encampments for our citizens in Portland, and we're housing asylum seekers at $12,000 a month. Something is bad wrong here. And I think the desire to be a liberal has many people gone foolish, you know. Anyway, thank you for listening. I like you.
Anybody have a question for the candidate? Suzanne?
Hi, I have a question for Nathan, actually. As we approach our final year of the RSU1 separation,
Sure.
what are your plans to engage the community and get their input on what they'd like to see for the school going forward?
I guess I can only speak for myself. In my experience with the school, it's been great, and I'm not too familiar with it, but I knew that RSU1, I guess not succeeded, but they became their own school region, correct?
We broke out of there.
Broke out of it. I think that's a great way to continue, just again from my own kids' experience, where the classes are a great size, and all the teachers have been very responsive for everything we need. I would feel free to, I guess, to go out to the public, right, and I guess poll people, and I'm open to all ideas, of course.
It's not just K to 5, it's the whole school. It's a 6 to 12, we have school choice. Now we've committed to 75%.
Sure.
Going
Yes.
to RSU1.
Yes.
I'd like to know, what are your plans to get the community engaged, what their wishes are as we move forward past this commitment?
Oh, are they redoing the commitment, or is that
It's,
up to this? Gotcha. I would probably keep it the same the way it is currently, just because again, my own experience, but if, I guess I need to come to more open houses and more community forums to ask more people's opinions. I can only speak for myself and maybe a handful of the other parents in the classrooms, or parents with kids in the classrooms, and they've had a great experience as well with whatever the current system. But obviously, I would definitely need to organize more forums or some sort of community reach or gathering, there we go, and ask more questions.
Yes, Bob.
I'm Bob Weir. I'm a resident of West Bath. I think, Nathan, what Suzanne is alluding to, is that when we separated from RSU 1,
Sure.
the state required us to find a school district that would take our middle school and high school students, and we had to enter into a 10-year agreement,
Gotcha.
really a contract, if you want to think of it that way.
Yep.
And that's up in another year.
Gotcha.
And what she's really trying to get at is, what are the factors that are going to be important as we negotiate a new contract with RSU 1, or consider even going to another school?
Sure, like
administrator?
Brunswick or Thompson.
Well, school
or
choice,
Bath.
it's, what is it? I guess that's, what is the plan as we move forward? You know, are you polling the students and the parents as to what their wishes are for the next phase?
I haven't yet. I'm not elected, so I can't really do too much.
No, I mean, that's really kind of where I think, you know, it's.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I'd be willing to go and ask. I actually live right across from school, so I could get people as they drive by. I mean, again, I'm open to a challenge of anything. I don't turn anything down. So yeah, I mean, if I get elected, I lost my one vote last year, which was pretty funny to actually read the whole score out going, and I had to piece it together in my head. But yeah, no, I'm willing to try anything to get people's whatever views. All information is good.
Do you have any idea how many of the high school students have chosen to go to Morris High School versus other high schools?
No, I have no idea how many high school kids going,
Yes.
or the middle school, or kids K through fifth grade.
The high school I was really interested in.
No, I have no idea with high school because my kids only in first grade. And I grew up in Freeport, so I have don't really know the whole K through high school in West Bath or in Bath as well.
As far as I know, we have not had a situation in which we had to have lots drawn.
Yeah.
So, we have been able to keep the number of students who wish to go to the RSU 1 schools within the contractual level.
I just feel taking that out.
We're almost at the 25% limit, which is what we committed to 75 to RSU 1 and 25 at school choice. And then when the state allows it now to go to parochial schools as a school choice, so that may change as well. That was approved.
I just want to comment too, I read the email about West Bath, the 5th graders today, about, you know, they built the boats and they've been taking rowing for PD. And then they met with Paul Potter today, and yesterday, and he gave him all kinds of information about his business, his salary, how he makes his money, how he plans, and I just thought that was great.
Any other questions? Steve?
Kathleen, in your past 3-year term, can you point out what accomplishments you have done in that time period?
I think the biggest thing was the rebound. I think the other things we've been working on is policies and procedures. Still a lot of work to do. Also a lot of, we've started a lot of things, we haven't finished a lot of things. We're working on the database to get all the information on the roads put into a database system, so we know exactly what culverts spend replaced on what date, what road's been resurfaced on what year. It's a DOT database, and all that information is in the process. We are actually going to get a couple of engineers to put that in and start using that. So when someone says, what's your priorities next year, we can say, we've done this, this, and this, and this is what's next on our agenda, instead of doing that emergency type thing. Like, I kind of feel like we're doing right now with Birch Point. It's kind of become an emergency situation, so I think that's going to be extremely helpful. We're working on budgets for each department head, so they know exactly what they've spent, what they have to spend, where they're going. So just a lot of that data stuff that we haven't been able to track or keep care of. I mean, it's all in everybody's head. That doesn't do us any good, because you have a new board up here every 3 years, a new person. Some of this stuff we've done over and over and over, but we don't know what they did 10 years ago. So we're back at that starting point again. So it's really just information keeping, data collection, those type of things that I think with Christine here, we've made a good stride at, and I think we're finally getting somewhere.
Yes.
Further question. What is your assessment of how the revaluation is going, and why did we choose to go with an off-site assessment firm to handle further assessments for the town?
I think that with any rebound, anything, we're going to have glitches and complications. You just can't avoid it. There's going to be people that feel like they've been under-assessed, over-assessed. There's going to be people that work. There's going to be mistakes that were made. There's going to be, and anything we do, there's going to be mistakes. I think it makes sense at this time to go back and give the person who did the assessment the chance to fix the record, to straighten it out. I think he's the one, or the other company that did it. They have the most information right at this minute. So if for some reason they said you had 3 bathrooms and a screened-in porch, and you don't have any of that, then they need to correct that. That's their responsibility. That's what we paid them for. They need to fix it.
Madeline.
Just a point of history, we put out an RFP for firms to do, because that's what they do, to do the rebound, and we did not get any bids. And Christine used her contacts, and these people agreed to do it, and so that's how it happened. Everybody was doing rebounds. Nobody wanted to do such a small job as West Bath. They got lots more money from bigger towns. So they did us a kindness, as it were, and now we're in the process, and it is a process of getting things straightened out. And as if taxes could ever be straightened out, they will be.
And the other part of the question, why not have an in-house assessing agent to continue on as opposed to presumably a contract with Parker?
I think we've had that discussion back and forth, and we thought the best way to do is he has all those records right now. Other than hiring Ron back, we don't have that information, so to work with them to get the information, get it cleaned up and put in the system is the reason why.
Jane, did you have a question?
I was curious to know what the volume of increase of structures that had to be assessed compared to the last time we did a rebound. Do you have any idea at all, like?
I do not. I don't have that information.
Do you know how many total? just seems to be a massive job.
It's a huge job, I have no doubt. The good thing is going forward, it will only need to be new structures, new additions and stuff like that. So it's really important that we get this database cleaned up, get evaluations that we hope are accurate and right, and get them in that database. And
So you think this reval took more time because of having to collect and organize all that information you didn't have in hand?
No, I think it took more time just because they had to go out to each home.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of time. A lot of times people aren't there. They try a couple of times, and if they can't get in, then they just do it from the outside of the house. I think that all takes time.
Yeah, oh, I understand that, because he spent an immense amount of time at our house.
Yes, Bob?
Ron, what do you got to say about the reval?
Well, I think it's something that all the towns are going through now. Every assessor I've talked to is realizes that there is a problem. Mr. Parker certainly is well recommended amongst the assessing establishment. I think well, plus there's problems with it. There's no doubt about it. There's problems every.
What are the problems?
Well, I would say probably the mill rate probably was one of them. I think probably they had the wrong mill rate at one time, and something was done and something was left out. But working with the other two companies that went through the last time, they had problems too, and one of them, they decided that they were only going to do 95% of the buildings in town, and believe me, that's what they did. There was another 5% that didn't get tax bills for. The second time around, Vision, they were all right. I thought, I liked the technique, I liked the way they separated the 17 neighborhoods. I did like that. I think it was straight, simple, and forward. I worked with both programs. I worked in Boltonham for 7 years as their assessor, and they get the program we got now down here. And I worked with Vision ever since they were over here. So there's different times I get mad working with Vision, and I'll say, boy, I wish I was working with the other one. And I said, get the same thing with Trio. I say, what the hell are they doing in Trio? They should be doing it in Vision, But the overall, I don't know. I think it's too late to say whether, I know it's hard. It's very, very hard because, the values have gone up so high, and the inflation has pushed the housing market up so damn high. What can you do? I mean, that's the value you're supposed to, that's the just value they're putting on these places. The only chances that the taxpayer has is if he finds a mistake that they made, either in the property or the buildings themselves. That's why I thought that, maybe we need something like Bridgeton Scott for the older people in town, because they seem to be hit hardest, because a lot of them do have expensive homes. I don't know. I think it's too early to say how it will really come out. I say it had to be done. Obviously, we were dropping fast. We were down at 90. Next thing I know, we're down at 70, and we knew it was going to be a little lower than that. And you got to assess at 70. Well, the state's going to get after you. So, and it's the same way with most of the towns and the people I've talked to. They got no choice but to do it. It's expensive, and every time you do it, there's going to be a cleanup afterwards. That was in all three of these. There was a cleanup to get things right, and get the tax maps right again. I don't know. There's two different people that swear right up and down they're being taxed more than they walk around that they got. And I told them I would look into it and see exactly what they got. And it's about 200-300 feet, that's a lot of money. That's never, not to hear say that won't be done. And proof of what they got, and if they swear to it and it's right, then we're up the tax bill. But, yeah, I didn't like them breaking my laptop computer, but I like the people that work for Parker. The girl, his son and Bob, they all go to school with me. And he certainly got a good reputation, what I've heard from the assessors I talked to. This time we got a company that's in Maine, the last two companies were from New Hampshire. Which one's probably, I don't know, the two from New Hampshire, they went to pieces about 10 years. This one here is, unless things calm down, it's going to go to pieces too. Because there's just no end to it. There's no end to what people pay for some of this property in town, and there's no end to how much it costs to build something. And the fact that there's a lack of housing out there for everybody. It's all driving the price up, and every time you assess something, you're going to have to assess it on that fact. What's it cost to build it? You know? And if you haven't got the right technique to do with the property, and that's going to go up too as well.
Suzanne had her hand up first.
So just to tag a little bit onto that with evaluation, Ron, it's a two-part question. Do you feel that our evaluations were accurate in what we came out with? First question. The second question is, as we have completed our reval and we have our taxes owed to Saginaw County, with our increased value, are we going to see a significant increase over the other towns that were not going through the reval process as we get our new tax allocation? Because I think,
Yep.
I fear that West Bath is now, our rate's going to go significantly higher
Yeah.
than the other towns in the county, and we paid a significant
The
bill.
more
to them.
valuation you have in the town, the higher the rate's going to be.
And so it seems sort of unfair then that we've got a significant difference and the rest of the towns in our tax
And then if we
bucket
fall
don't.
below 70%, then the state's going to back, say we do it over again.
Yeah, but we're gonna pay 2 years more for you. And so, I mean, I look at that as, and seeing the big picture and stepping back and saying, maybe, we have to do it every 10 years, maybe they need to do it countywide so that we all pay the same change at that. And it's certainly not anybody in this room, but I think West Bath is gonna take it on the chin next year when we get our bill from Saginaw. And I'm concerned with that, and I don't know what the right answer is moving forward, because we have to wait for every other town in the county to now catch up to our value.
Yeah, I know most of the other towns in the county do need revaluations too as well.
And I know it's a 10-year ratio, but maybe it should be a county timeline versus a calendar timeline.
That's true.
Just saying.
No,
Steve.
very true.
Yes, we needed to do a reval. Just a note though, in terms of the time it took the reval or whatever, I know of no one that was asked to have people go into the house, or I know of no one that had an in-house inspection, either asked or went in, so this does not seem to be part of the revaluation. Another sort of curious glitch was on the property cards of many, many places, they were in as title as they were, yet when the property cards came out from after Parker had been in there, all these people came out with deep water that had to be corrected, or for those that paid attention had to be corrected, and that seems strange.
That's true, and I've been asked by a lot of people about that. I did like the way that Vision did do the law. I did like that. And I think their way of doing it through TRIO is probably about the same way they did it in Bodenham. That's the difference in the software. I mean, if to get it properly closer, you have probably Vision had it closer. a while, they would get, there was one that I had to bump up because he was supposed to high water. In high water, good sight.
Is it an automatic tabulation that happens in the software, or is it a manual tabulation that was an input component?
And,
So someone clicked that as a
yeah,
value.
yeah. It's all pretty good. I did like I said, I like the 17 neighborhoods. It was broke up into, the land values were different in every neighborhood, and then you had a formula to go along with, adding it up, seeing what the difference was between property here and the property, say, on the next neighborhood. It was pretty good, but, I know this revaluation is done by a pretty good guy. But I know there's probably problems, there was problems on the last two.
So the car alterations were manual adjustments?
They were computerized.
But the edits to those were manual adjustments?
Well, right now we're going with the cards, the vision, not the vision, the other cards. We're holding on to the vision cards as a backup because it's a key thing that you hold on to those cards, just like we did the one before, because there's a lot of information on those cards, all three cards now. So
But the alterations from year over year, was that manual or?
it's probably when you find it.
I think I can answer that. So, at the beginning of the reval process, we took all the information from Vision, transferred it into Trio, the software program that we're using going forward. That was our baseline. All the cards were printed out, and then changes were made manually from there. Does that answer it?
Kind of.
David?
Maybe it's just me, but it seems like a little off from the candidates night. And
I would think so, but,
concentrating on reval, but this is not a
Yeah.
reval.
Yeah.
It seems like we're going kind of this way or that way. Or candidates night.
any other questions for the candidates?
For Nathan, what's the best thing that you see happening with your kids in school?
The inclusive feeling with all the kids. Where my son, being a kindergartner last year, had a really good friend who was a fifth grader. And for them to be able to even, I know they kind of step it up, they don't just throw them all at once at recess, but they step up at one point, the kindergarten and fifth graders even playing together at recess. I think that's a great model to have and flip-flop. And I know there's two kindergarten this year and one of everything else. And so they have, at least, I know, like when my son plays with the kindergartners at recess, I know that all of them are in a way playing together, part whole type of thing. They're all playing together and then separately, whatever, in classes, but then integrate together at recess. I think it's a great thing. Their lunch times too, where some of the kids are like, I know they mismatch some of the grades together to eat. But yeah, and the teachers have had wonderful, or my son's had wonderful responses for all the teachers. Ms. Thompson is a wonderful principal, and her ability to communicate any issues or any upcoming events. They're always very clear and right on the ball with all that stuff. So the current again, Emily in the communication and Mr. Clark right there at the front office. I mean, they're on it no matter what. I mean, I couldn't imagine having all those kids all at once, all the time, but they seem very professional. So yeah, they're doing a great job.
Jane?
I didn't realize we had 2 kindergartens this year.
Yeah, I believe it's 2 kindergarten classes this year, and then one of everything else, one
So
first.
what's gonna happen down the road? Are we gonna have enough room?
Yes, it fluctuates year to year, so some years there's 2 of kindergarten and 1 of other. Last year, my son was there was only 1 class of kindergarten, and I think 2 fifth grade actually that last year. So it fluctuates every year, and then
I
teachers.
understand that, but if there's a trend, because I know there's been a lot of building.
Sure.
If we have 2 this year,
If
what
there's
would
2,
happen if we had 2 next year?
That's a
and
great
2 the
question.
year after?
well, that's a lot of multiplying.
I know. But is there plan, I mean, me like we need to be planning on this.
Sure, no, absolutely. I know, I mean, just from my experience at Freeport, we had growth of students, we had to use pods for a while. And I know that's it's a temporary solution. But adding additions to buildings obviously is a major conversation to have. But even, I mean, it's not unheard of to have pods some year and others not. I know in others, in some schools because of population growth. So, but it would be, I know, I don't remember the director, I think her name is Ann, she does the Bath YMCA, and they have pre-K there, and I know that Ann and Miss Thompson talk a lot, and she kind of gives her the heads up of how many kids are coming at least, and so I know at least they have conversations too from the pre-K level, even up to the West Bath, and so.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Nicholas. I've lived in West Bath probably just longer than that, like down the street. And speaking of growth and speaking of the schools and everything, what would each of you like to see as far as growth goes for West Bath, besides policies and administrative? What other kinds of growth would you like to see in this town?
Do you mean the school or just?
With the town, like the growth of the school, the installation of a light down the street, or like what would you like to see West Bath? How would you like to see West Bath grow? It's probably a better idea, better question.
So my biggest thing that I would like to see is some kind of community center. And when I say community center, I would like to see something for our kids, like a skate park or a soccer field, something inclusive, so the kids, the adults, so we could be more of a community. Bath has their community stuff, Pittsburgh has their community stuff. They do a lot of civic things, a lot of community things. I think what West Bath is missing is the community interaction to make us all aware of our neighbors, our friends, who's in our town, who isn't, who are the kids that could use mentors. That's just what I would like to see. And I know there's been some talk about helping out with this park down here. What is it?
The wing farm?
The wing farm, maybe him eventually doing something like that, maybe having a ball field or a skate park or a skating rink or something that would be more of a community place for us all together.
With the movie theater and the bowling alley closing down, there's definitely a need for things to do.
I think that's a kind of big back off here. I think it's a community idea. I was able to be a part of kindergarten through high school lacrosse coaching group, and we actually organized all the way from the kindergarten to the high school game, like an alumni game or their last home game. And thinking of that idea, having like a ball field or a location to go to, get all the kids on some like not a summer day, but when they're not all in school, they sort of just West Bath individuals and family meet at a community center and have, I don't know, a sporting event of something like that for like a kid and family night, trying to think like a field day type of thing. That would be a great open invite and do like whatever sack races type of thing, and like a community fun, family fun day. That'd be a great thing.
I'd like to see that. No, you wouldn't.
I think if you go back to the comprehensive plan and the idea is you want more commercial growth in town, pay the taxes and expand. Maybe that's where it is, I don't know, and that's something that Mr. Paris hated, the idea of commercial property. But we do have a lot of commercial property. We've got a lot more that fits for this, and we do assess it. And if you're going to have it, I mean, you got the corridor out there, you're going to have it. Maybe that's where, that might help us with the commercial property. Most of the town is 3 acre limit on zoning. That's going to cut down on how many new houses and so forth that can build. And the rest of it's 2 acre. 1 acre right here. And I think it has, when the state put that on us, I think it saved the town a lot of grief by doing it. It's a matter of now that, you know, we've got a lot of, most of the waterfront properties bought out by other states. You know, in fact, there are a lot of people that still own it, that are still struggling with it, because of taxes. But I think if you go back and look at the comprehensive plan, what they thought they should have and do, and I think that may be where your answer should be, what they thought, what they think in that plan. I haven't read it for a while. I know that was a key thing.
Yes, Jane?
One of the ideas I thought was talk about using the school as a more of a community center and having activities like you're speaking of at the school. Is any of that progressed?
And it has not. And I think one of the things is the school is really a small area, there's not much parking. Once you get the teachers all there isn't really room for other cars. I just don't think it's gonna be the size that we need. I mean, it still can be looked at, but I think we have to do things on a smaller scale.
Anyone else?
Just observation, finding a flat piece of land big enough for a football field could be a problem in West Bath.
And just, one of my pet peeves, and I want to see business in West Bath. The trouble is, when we say we want business in West Bath, everybody looks at the state road. Well, there's a lot of people that have lived here their whole lives, me included, and I really get offended sometimes when you put all these businesses in and you really don't care about us who live here, and we have to put up with all the noise, all the construction, Casellas. So I think, I would like to say, I don't think West Bath is a town of just waterfront people, and they get the ones to have the serenity. I think we need to think about all our town people and really be careful where we put this commercial property.
Most of it's where it is, though. I mean, by the town itself.
That's
They've
right, and I'm
expanded
just
the commercial zone.
saying that we need to think of all of West Bath's town people, not
It's
just,
a mix, commercial and residential.
I know it is, but I'm just saying, I think we need to think about that a little bit.
It's a comprehensive plan.
Oh, we have a problem too with, we don't have public sewer and septic. So we've got to have minimum space for any dwelling or any commercial property. So that already puts the onus on where any commercial development can happen. Do you have any idea of places in West Bath where it would be available, big enough pieces for commercial development other than New Farm?
I really don't. I mean, this purpose would have been great, but it's one of those pieces of land that we can't do anything with because there is no water, there is no sewer. The only way we can ever change all of that is to have an agreement with Brunswick and Bath, and I think that's light years away. They're not gonna, they don't wanna work with us, they don't wanna extend the sewer and water. It makes it really complicated. Somebody's gonna have to come in with lots of money that really wants that piece of land, really wants to develop it, has the money, and wants to pay the money so that Brunswick and Bath doesn't have to foot in the impact bill. And I think that's the only way we're gonna.
Powerball's $1.4 billion.
I can remember back
Saturday.
when I was a selectman, we approached the Brunswick Sewer Department, which is separate entity, and they seemed to be interested in helping us. So they had this kind of a community meeting, I think it was in Yarmouth, I went up to it. And I was a selectman, and this woman came up to me and says, "We don't want you." Excuse me? We don't want you. And I said, well, isn't that?
It's hard to hear you.
Isn't
We
it-
have this thing going on in the kitchen, I don't know if they're doing dishes or.
It's our ice machine.
Ice, oh my God, we just can't hear back here,
I
sorry.
said, well, we're working with the Brunswick Sewer Department. Well, they're gonna tell us we're gonna tell them what to do, and you're not coming over. That's the way that went. With Bath, I think it was more or less, it stations up over the hill. We've got public water in commercial zone, limited, but we've got it in, and a lot of people want on to it.
With the new comp plan, that may provide us the opportunity for grants as well. We weren't allowed to participate with grants without a current comp plan, and now we have one.
Does anybody else have any questions for the candidates? Yes.
Gary Nelson, Ron, do you have anything in mind going forward for keeping the budget down? The overall budget, keeping costs down as we go forward?
Well, I think that my personal opinion was that the reaction, the Park Associates said, you know, they got blamed for the taxes being high in Buxton, but the select board and the finance committee, they raised $600,000-700,000 more in the annual budget, which put it right back up there. And I think in some respect, it might have been down here too. I don't know for sure. Yeah, but I know the budget's way up from what it was last year.
I just want to say, we have one of the best budget committees I've ever seen, and they do everything possible to keep costs at a minimum. And if we didn't have them, taxes in West Bath would be a lot higher. So David Hennessy and his team are fantastic. I don't think you could get a better group of people, and really what keeps West Bath taxes high, whether we like it or not, is our school. Our school is at least 80% of our budget, and our budget is going to continue. Everything we pay for in this town is school. Everything else we get, they use very little money for, and we get a lot for that little bit of money they're allocating to those other services.
I got one more thing, and I'll be
Okay.
done. I'd love to have an idea of how much money it costs us incrementally year to year that comes from state mandates, so we don't have any control over. Other than the superintendent. But like,
No, we don't shoot the message.
I mean,
We don't shoot anybody.
do we get a 10% increase yearly because of new state mandates? I mean, a ballpark, 1%, 10%, 100%.
It's really hard because we have the school where we're one of those schools, standalone schools, where we don't get the funding that other districts get. So we pay more percentage to our school than Yarmouth, Freeport, Portland. So we're really funding our school on our own for the most part. We don't get, yeah, we're mandated to do things, but we don't get the funding to go with it.
Oh, yeah.
And I expect our Saginaw tax bill to go significantly higher next year.
Allison, you had some?
Well, yeah, to get to Jane's question, that is something that several legislators pay close attention to, is unfunded mandates. I remember years ago, before I was in the legislature, getting a pack, like 35 pages of unfunded mandates. I know that now, if it's determined to be a mandate, and this is municipal, it's not, the school is different, you need 2/3 support in the legislature, or the state has to pay 90% of what it will cost. Jane, I'd be happy to follow up on that. It's kind of an interesting question. The school issue is relative to, you're considered a minimal receiver, and that's something that that we wrestled with this year. The bill to give minimal receivers more percentage. The idea there is that your mill rate, the state says you can afford to provide all of this based on your mill rate and your valuation, which kind of gets to what we were talking about earlier. But that bill, I believe, has been carried over, so it has not been dealt with yet. It's not the full 55%, but it's something. But it is a question, it is raised some questions about, are there other ways that we can figure out what schools can afford, or what towns can afford, and put that in air quotes, to pay. So, it's a good question.
Yes, Paul?
Paul Coombs, in line with that, since we were talking about the revenue side here, on the expense side, since the school is such a huge portion of the budget, is there any way we can sort of ride herd on how much year-to-year expenditure goes up in the school system?
I think that's one of those things like Suzanne was talking about. We're gonna have to sign another contract with different RSUs for continued education of our kids. How much is that gonna go up? How much is, I mean, we can't just stop sending our kids to further education, so I don't think there is.
Well, yeah, that part is, you know,
It comes
not
through
so much-
budgeting every year on what is proposed and approved, and then it goes to the town meeting to vote. So
Right.
the town, you know, a budget, a number's put forth, and then the community has the right to accept or reject it. So that's,
So that's the ultimate control.
it is.
It is.
Well, it all started too when we got out of RS1. We should have never got out of it in the first place.
And if you go to town meetings, every town meeting I've been to, especially since I've been selectman, all of those things pass with no question.
That's true, that's true. I mean, if
Except for going-
there's concern about the rate of spending increase at the school, then people need to be more cognizant of that and actually speak up if they feel that the increases are untoward.
And I heard something in the back about, you know, considering, you know, as we end our committed 10-year timeline, what is the next step? And the reason why we got out of RSU1 and won the lawsuit for $1.5 million was we were unjustly paying
Right.
our amount. Now that that's been aired publicly and corrected for the other towns that are still in the RSU, you know, does it make sense to maybe go, and I don't know the answer, to go back, who knows? You know, our K-5 education is a substantial amount of money per student. It's about $17,000 per kid versus 6 to 12 is like 10.8. So there's a 70% premium for K-5 right now. So that falls into kind of what you're talking about also.
Yes, Bob?
I'd just like to react to what Suzanne said. Yes, when we left RSU1 because they cheated us.
Mhm.
It was, the judge told them they were wrong. Bath had screwed us, put it bluntly.
And all the other towns too.
Well, there
Most
were
of
other
them,
towns,
most of them, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
there were other towns that didn't.
It wasn't fairly distributed.
Right, the penalty was highly prejudiced towards West Bath, of what, when Bath, without taking a citizen's vote, changed the formula. Before we pulled out, they went back, they got called on it, and they went back and did a revote with RSU1, and they adopted the formula that left us holding the bag. And so that's why there was sentiment to withdraw. So going back to RSU1 and asking for a better deal, we already did that in a sense, and they said no.
Well, they have 75% of our population right now. This isn't really part of Canada tonight. I don't want
I know, but
to
it's,
take it down that path.
we're all talking about issues and what are the problems.
For educating me.
All good discussion going forward.
Well, I love that the amount of people that are here tonight. I wish there were more at every select board meeting, because I think this is a way for us to communicate and talk about whatever. We usually have 4 people in the audience, and I would love to see more people come on a regular basis and have these conversations openly.
Maybe we need to give 1% discount on their taxes if they come to.
We need a bigger building.
Well, but we could, I mean, you know, it sounds funny, but give people a reason. We heard when we moved here, that you always got a good number of people at town meeting if you were discussing taxes. Now, the other time we had to do was when we were doing something with the fire department, all firemen.
Yep.
You know, you gotta have a reason for people to pay attention.
Well, I'd like to, if I may, just make one comment to Nathan. If you haven't sensed it, one of the irritations that's going on in the community is that the school comes to the town with a big budget increase. And maybe it's our own fault at town meeting that we don't ask questions about it. But I also know that the town staff and the select board, who have to set the tax rate, aren't being communicated with in as effective a way as they could with the school board and the select board. And my advice, I think you're gonna get elected this time. But I think that's a lot of good things happening in our West Bath Elementary School. I couldn't say enough good things about it. But the whole cost of education is also the middle school and the high school. And I had asked Emily at one point, why is some of this going up? And she said the tuition rates that we have to pay to send our students to RSU1 schools has gone up dramatically. So back to what Suzanne asked you about before, there's a new negotiation going to come up within your term. Let's see if we can do better.
Right. Yeah, do it right. Yeah. It's time is now to get the community involved, because we're in the last home stretch of that commitment.
Yes, Bob?
Well, Ronnie, one view, I agree 100%. Industrial commercial development pays great taxes to the town. The other side of that, I've been told, is that the housing development you never catch up on. That a house with a young couple with 2 kids, you never collect enough property tax from that property to educate the 2 kids.
Right.
You ever heard anything like that?
Well, yeah, I suppose, and one of the things they said is, you know, commercial property, but don't have kids. The other thing was, if you go way back, and this goes way back, we got some of the highest paid teachers in the state of Maine.
Oh. Really?
Yeah, we got some teachers that get $100,000 before they retire.
I'd like to see that written in black and white. I'd like to have a list that shows, or you show me, because I'm wondering about that.
Yep. And that started with Pittsburgh when we was 42. There was a guy that come in from New York, from Pittsburgh, and he talked to all the schools and the school committees and everything, and convinced them that all the teachers needed more money. At that time, there was a guy that was a selectman from Pittsburgh, Peter Roberts. I don't know if you guys know him. He was a teacher. He taught at Auburn. And he said, you know what gets me? He says, the number of years I taught at Auburn, the number of years teaching doing the same thing down here in Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh was involved too. They get, the woman down here get twice as much money as they get from Auburn. And that
I don't
was,
think that's right
even
today.
negotiation, that was one of the questions I asked with RSU1. I said, are the teachers, because my wife was a teacher in Bath, are the teachers going to get the same kind of pay that West Bath gets? Oh yeah, of course. They never did.
Are you talking a long time ago? I'm sorry, I'm Joyce Hennessy, but are you talking conversations from a long time ago? When we withdrew from RSU1? Those conversations about salaries, or are you talking right today?
No,
Comparing salaries with Auburn and
West
West
Bath.
Bath?
It's always been like that.
And you're saying that we have teachers in West Bath making $100,000 a year right now?
That's wrong.
Well, you did,
So when
anyway.
the budget committee does their budget, they listed all the salaries of the teachers. So I think that is available. I think we would take some.
Public information.
Yeah, I agree we need to have it when we have a meeting, and it's our fault we didn't bring it, but I'm not sure that what you're saying, Ron, is at this point in time is true.
Well, I know it
think
was,
the
it
one
was true a
thing
little
we
bit while ago, but
we
that's
saw
all.
was there was a couple of teachers getting paid 2 different positions.
Okay, and we do have that, it looks like our superintendent and our principal is getting a huge amount of money. But what we get for that is a lot less expensive than we have to go someplace else and get a separate superintendent.
Right, and that is public information, so if people here need that
Why not?
information, want that information, we can get that.
And I posed a question to Allison, I don't know if you were able to answer that, to look into this. At one point, I believe it's still at time, that the state requires librarians to hold a master's degree. That is a significant price point for the school to pay for a K-5 librarian at a master's degree rate. So there are things that are being paid significant amounts of money that aren't, I would, and I don't, both of my parents were in public education, I'll preface that, but I think that, when I look at a librarian, I'd rather see a teacher making more money than the librarian, because I think the students as a whole garner more out of that participation. I'm not saying the librarian doesn't deserve a salary, but I don't think they need to be at the master's rate in a K-5 school. But it's a state requirement, I think, is that still correct?
I think so,
We did talk about that, and so there's things that are required that we have no boundary to change right now. Doesn't mean that we can't address it at a higher level, but there are components to a school budget that are out of our control.
Just in the town budget too, not just school.
Yes, Bob?
Nathan, hope you're gonna get elected. One vote. I think focus today we have to look at. I think a lot of parents think Sunny is going to happen. When we all know that now trade work pays well. I think an example like St. George, Fort Clyde, to get out of the 8th grade, all you gotta do is read the lobster scale and you're graduating, you know? Because that's what they're gonna do. And everybody can't be a computer genius or a brain surgeon. And I think vocational ed has really been let down for many years. I remember my parents telling me that I wasn't going to be a grease monkey, so I didn't go to Votech. I wound up at a Catholic high school in Boston. I passed 2 years of Latin. I haven't used it since. What can I say?
Are there any final questions for the candidate? Okay, we'll move along to our public hearing. Thank you very much to the candidates for sharing their ideas tonight.
All right, I think everyone in the room knows me. I'm Carly Perry, I'm your town clerk. Before I get into our ballot, I just want to talk a little bit about all the ballots are now available, so you can go to westbath.org. There's an email request form and you can have your ballot sent right to you, or you can stop by town hall and pick one up there. Also on our website are copies of the ballots to take a look at if you're going to be voting in person, and the state referendum guide. We have 6 really tough state questions, so you want to read up on those. And we have 1 referendum question for the town, and part of that requires a public hearing, so that's why I'm talking right now. The town meeting referendum question is, do you support changing the format for the West Bath annual budget town meeting from open town meeting to referendum town meeting? So this is to vote to see if you'd like to change it. Currently, the town has open town meeting. We all get together typically at the West Bath School, go through the budget line by line, vote on each item, ask questions in open forum. We can talk to the select board and the school board, ask them questions, and vote from the floor. If we change it to a referendum town meeting, you would be voting from a ballot just like you're going to in November. This would allow for people to vote absentee, request the ballot get mailed to them, or they can go and vote at the polls, but it would all be on paper. So that is the summary of the referendum question. Does anyone have any questions on that? Quick and easy.
Is that just a yes, no?
It's a yes or no. Do you support changing it? So a yes vote would vote to change it. A no vote would vote not to change it and keep it the way it is.
But if you had 50 votes, does it have to be a percentage of people passing the change?
No, it's majority rule, so whoever gets the most votes, the yes or the no's.
In
Yes.
a referendum form,
Mhm.
is that a yes or no on the whole budget period?
No.
You would vote line by line and vote each budget line item yes or no. So one budget
Got it.
item
Got
could
it.
be voted down and the rest of the budget would still pass. Yes, Bob?
So it would only be on that budget, the rest of the town meeting would go on as it always has.
No.
There would be no town meeting.
Budget town meeting is what we have now to vote on the budget. That would be done entirely as a referendum ballot.
But we could still have town meetings. Like
You
it-
could
like-
still have open town meetings for
Like a-
land use
a comp
ordinance
plan
changes,
meeting.
comp plan.
Those are the.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, you had a question?
Just a note that if we go to referendum, Wilbert Small's ghost will rise and strike us all dead.
We'll get us happy there, anything in a few others, yes.
And at that moment, the video cut out.
Is
Carrie?
this being recommended by the selectmen and the town officials?
No, the selectmen discussed it and it kind of ended up, it was put out to a straw poll, which came back almost 50-50. The select board didn't feel it was right to make a decision based on those numbers, so we're putting it out for a final official vote.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Is
Yes.
there an expected cost to go with the referendum?
There's a cost either way. The referendum would, if we went to a referendum, it would take place on the June ballot, which every other year the state has a ballot anyway, so the election cost would already be in place. And for years that there isn't a state election, we could have reduced hours, so the cost would be negligible to what it is now to run a town meeting. Steve?
I would suggest that along with that proposal, you make a note that hereafter, if we have in-person town meetings, homemade pies would be supplied. You'll get a different tally.
We don't have a write-in option for them, unfortunately. Carrie?
I'm assuming this would be machine read. We heard from
In
other
order to keep a
towns who have
or
done this
keep a
with
regular town
going
meeting,
from
yes.
the town meeting, the number of questions that we have every year to a machine read one to see how that works out.
Yeah, it would be the same as any other ballot. The machine just tallies them. We have about 30 or 40 line items on the budget right now, so it wouldn't be,
The current one.
yeah, significantly difficult.
Keep the town meeting.
Yes.
For the group that shows up here.
Somebody had to say it.
All right, so I think if there are no further questions, we can close candidates' night and the public hearing, and then we'll take a small break, and then we'll have the select board meeting. Is that good? Okay.
And